Hello, friends. It's Mr. Matt here with your Sunday school lesson for today. Now, you'll remember we've been talking about the man named Saul and how on the road to Damascus he encounters Jesus and starts his journey to becoming a man called Paul. Now, you might remember from this story, because we've talked about it for a few weeks now, you may remember from the story that Saul was a Jewish man who didn't believe in Jesus, and he didn't want people to follow Jesus. So he would go around arresting and putting Christians into jail. And he went to the Jewish leaders and he asked for permission to go to another city called Damascus to do the same thing, to find Christians and to arrest them and throw them in jail. And when he was on the road going to this new city, he had an encounter with Jesus. He was walking along, and then all of a sudden he was surrounded in a brilliant light, and it sort of knocked him to the ground. And he hears somebody talking to him who says, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Why are you hurting me?" And Saul says, "Who are you?" And he says, "I am Jesus of Nazareth. And I want you to go to the city of Damascus, and I want you to go to a certain place and to find a certain man. And that man will help you and tell you what you need to do next." Well, when the light goes away, Saul is blind and he can't see, and he needs the people that he's traveling with to help him continue on the way. But he gets to Damascus and he does just what Jesus told him to do. He goes and he finds the man, and the man wipes his eyes, and it's described as scales falling from his eyes, so he's able to see. And his sight is restored. And then the man says, "You need to learn more about Jesus. You need to become a Christian." And Saul does. And he goes to the other Christians and he says, "I didn't believe before, but after what happened on the road to Damascus, I now believe that Jesus is the Son of God, and I've got to share this good news." And so he goes on then to take the good news that he learned about and that he knew about Jesus, and he starts traveling the world to take it to other cities. So instead of arresting and putting Christians in jail, he now is trying to teach people about Jesus and make more Christians. That's his new role in life. It's his new vocation, is to be an evangelist and share the good news. Now, there's a part of this story that we haven't talked about, and that is that that you have Saul, who becomes Paul. He shows a lot of obedience. See, it would be really easy for Saul, when he was blind, instead of listening to what Jesus had said, it would have been very easy for Saul to be very angry. He could have been very upset that, Jesus might be the Son of God, but he blinded me. He took away my sight, and now I have to rely on people to get me where I'm supposed to go. And it just makes me so mad. But that's not what Saul does. Instead, Saul listens. He obeys what Jesus tells him to do. And in obeying Jesus, the difficulty that he was in starts to fall away. First, his blindness is removed. Then he gets to talk to some of the Christians who are still sort of scared of him because they think he might arrest them. And he has to have the hard job of apologizing to them and saying, no, I now believe, I now understand who Jesus is. But he does all of these things that Jesus asks him to do, even if they're difficult. And he's obedient to it. And if we read some of the letters that are in the Bible that Paul writes, he describes himself as being obedient to the will of God, that he is doing what he knows God and Jesus have asked him to do. And even though that means that Paul gets arrested and Paul has people try to stone him with rocks, and he has to escape from villages, from cities, running for his life because they don't want him in their town because he's disrupting things with this news about Jesus. He's even shipwrecked, all in the effort to try to share the good news about Jesus. And he remains obedient, no matter how hard it is to do what God wants him to do. He still does it. And he does it with a pretty happy and open heart. And I think there's a lesson for us in obedience there, which is to remember that just like it was for Saul and for Paul, sometimes doing the things that God wants us to do can be difficult. They can be hard to do. They can make some people unhappy with us. But if we stay focused on what God is asking us to do, then we know that we're helping to bring about God's kingdom and trying to share God's love with the world. And when we do that, we can be like Paul too. And we can have joy in our hearts, no matter how hard the work is that we're doing for Jesus. And a big part of that is remaining obedient to God's will and not listening to the voice in our head that says, do what you want to do. But if we stay obedient to the voice of God and do what God wants, then we can have the same joy and happiness and peace that Paul carried with him in his heart, even when things were tough. Okay, that's our Sunday school lesson for today. The next video, the activity video, is a kitchen video, and we'll see how sometimes when you shake things up, you can get a pretty good result. Okay, that's it for today. Until next time, bye for now.